Morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Y'all doing okay?
Mm-hmm.
The weather is finally nice outside,
Yep.
which is good. The joinpd.com is CKKUC.
Hey, Mr. P.
Hey,
So, once again, my Edpuzzle isn't working, so I'm not sure.
yeah, I was going to talk to you about that. So I just saw your text. Have you tried opening your Edpuzzle by just going to the web and not using the app?
I have not.
Okay, so I would say try a different browser like Chrome and go to edpuzzle.com and sign yourself in that way instead of the app and see if it works. It's probably the browser, but you also need to make sure you've cleared your browsing history.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, sometimes my puzzle stopped working, and I have to just go to the website instead of the app. And, they'll work there.
Try that. So I would say try using a different browser and not the app.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Abraham. Also try clearing
Hello.
out the browsing history if you're on Safari, and also try restarting your device. That's why it's not working. There's something in one of those things that's causing it to not work. So joinpd.com, CKKUC. So after the lesson, we're going to play today Kahoot because people asked yesterday. So I made one to use today.
Cool. Is it going to be parents versus kids?
Not today. That's tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
But that'll be GimKit, not Kahoot. Tomorrow.
Okay.
It'll be the last Friday GimKit battle with parents because the next Friday will be summer vacation.
Could we do one during the summer?
Sure. Yep.
Wait, what if we did one every Friday, even through the summer?
I'm game if anybody wants to join.
I'm game.
Okay.
Dang.
I'll definitely join. Yeah, that sounds fun.
I'm
I
happy
don't
to
want to be
them out.
lonely during the summer.
Sounds real cool.
Sounds good. And we will get together as soon as people are allowed to get together in larger groups, like 25. Because right now you can't have a gathering more than 10 people. But whenever that gets to the point where it's safe to do that, we will.
Okay.
All right.
Hey, and Scoob releases this Friday, guys.
Yes.
That's tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
And maybe.
Have you guys?
like
Do you guys watch?
I said, once we're back in regular school next fall, hopefully, whenever it is.
You just left the game to make sure.
Insight.
that you're
But
working.
What?
You
will,
guys don't make it left the game to make sure like
Left what game?
whatever game on birthday. I'll leave it.
so whenever we're back in real school, we'll have an afternoon after school one day where we will watch it in the room and have popcorn and snacks. Because I always intended for us to gather at the movies on the last week of school to watch it, but that movie theaters aren't open.
So we should do it once COVID's over. That would be so awesome.
Yeah, we will.
Once COVID's over. Hopefully COVID will be down low enough before Scoob kind of isn't shown
Well, I will say I doubt it will be because I don't think movie theaters will open for a couple months.
Yeah.
Do any of you watch Survivor?
No.
I mean, I've seen it it's been on 20 years, but I've seen it before, but not lately.
It's fun.
Yeah.
They just announced winners at War yesterday.
I was going to say, that was yesterday or today. I knew it was one of these.
And they're just gonna be like, I think, announcing it or like just giving somebody the check today.
Gotcha. Just be glad it's not your senior year and you're missing out on all your senior stuff like kids are. Because that's tough on them.
What do you mean? Like what kind of stuff?
Like prom and graduation and
Yeah.
There are some people in like Japan, I think, who are actually graduating using robots.
oh wow. Well, they're gonna have a virtual graduation and people are gonna also drive by in their schools in cars, but then they're hoping to have something after this is over for them too, because they got knocked out of lots of things that they normally look forward to as a senior. But we've all had things happen that we preferred wouldn't have happened this year, but it is what it is. All right, I'm going to start the Pear Deck. And a quick reminder about staying focused on the lesson. Yesterday, we talked about the purpose of different graphs. If you can write on the screen and give me 2 different graphs that have a different purpose. So pick from the kinds of graphs we briefly talked about, if you can remember. At least give me 1 if you can think of 2. I'm going to talk more about those other graphs today. All right, so let's see here. Pramita, can you tell me what you were talking about there?
Yeah, so yesterday we kind of talked about line graphs and we did talk about bar graphs. And bar graphs are basically just comparing the data at like one time. Like if you had a bar graph that said number of pets all my neighbors have, your neighbor's pets could change the next day. So you're just making it for that one time.
So it's just straight up just comparing data about some choices and a question. So it's take a question, get everybody's choices of answers, and make bars to represent the numbers. Okay?
Mr. P, it's not letting me write on my slide.
Okay, don't worry about it.
And then a line graph, it shows data like over the years. That's the only thing of it. So like if you go to the doctor and they're trying to show you like how your health or your BMI goes up or down, they'll be showing you a line graph or a scatter plot, but most likely a line graph.
So I'm going to take off the word years and say over another bigger word, time, right? So a line graph's job is to show you data over time. Is the time going to be the X or the Y? Is it going to be the one that goes horizontally or vertically? It's always going to be that way. Which one's it going to be?
Vertical? Oh, wait. On a line graph, it's horizontal.
So X. So the X-axis would be your time. Here's why. Because the X-axis tells you what the Y, which Y you're talking about, right? So the time would tell you which number you're talking about. And then you also said all graphs are about showing data, and that's correct. Is there anybody who had something? Okay, Kylie, you have a different one here, and so does Jayla. You also gave me a different one. You said the same thing that Pramita said about bar graphs. Tell me tell me about pie chart.
So a pie chart or a circle graph, it shows you proportions, so part of a whole. So you can easily see like, oh, this one is the most, and then this one is
Yep.
this
Okay.
the least.
So could someone else add on to what Kylie said about how would you get a pie chart? Pie chart, circle graph, same thing. How would you get the data for the pie chart? There's a little bit of math involved. What would you actually do? Let me go down the list here and I'll call somebody. Anybody want to volunteer, or I'll just pick somebody? All right, let me pick Michaela. Your name's the first one at the bottom there. Okay, Michaela. So what other graph would you take the data from to make the pie chart?
Well, I guess you could take it from a bar graph.
Okay, you exactly would take it from a bar graph. So you would take the bar graph, then what's the first thing you'd need to do? And then I'll pick somebody else. Take the bar graph and do what with it? Count.
Total.
Count all the different bars and get the total. All right, let me pick somebody else. Chloe, why would I need to know the total number of people in the bar graph? They're like, say it was cats, dogs, hamsters, birds, and I had to count all the numbers of all the choices. Why would I need to know all the numbers of all the choices?
Maybe so that you could get like the information right, so that you wouldn't have like incorrect information, I guess.
Okay. Let me ask somebody else. Fred, what would that number, that total, become? Because I would need to make a fraction, right? And that total of all the numbers in the bar graph would become my what in the fraction? Numerator or denominator?
I really do not know. I'm confused.
Denominator. It become your denominator. So let's say there were 5 for cats, 6 for dogs, 4 for birds, and 4 for fish. That's 20 total. All right. So then each of those bars would become a fraction. So it'd be 5/20ths for the one, 6/20ths for the one, 4/20ths for whichever, etc. Right? Then I would have those fractions. Angela, what would I do with those fractions? I'm just calling the names of whoever I'm seeing on the side here. So Angela, what would I do once I got those fractions for each of those 4 things, like cats, dogs, birds, fish? What would I do with those fractions to make the pie chart?
You would put it into the pie chart.
Okay, so I would figure out each of those fractions and what slice of the pie they are, right? So if it's 5/20ths, that's a 1/4, right? If it's 4/20ths, that's a 1/5. So I would figure out what that is. I could also turn it into a percentage. And this is the hardest part of doing a circle graph. I would need to take 360 degrees that make up a circle. Let me say really quickly why. So if you have a circle and you cut it into 4 equal parts, those are right angles, correct? Would you all agree with that? They're 90, 90, 90, 90, which makes up the total circle of 360. So if it's 25%, that's easy, it's 90 degrees. But here's how you got that. You took 25% of 360, and when you multiply 25 hundredths times 360, you get 90. And that means it's a 90-degree angle. Then you'd have to take what's called a compass and make your circle, and then you could get a protractor and make your angles. That's not for right now, but that's how it's actually done. So it's a lot harder to make a circle graph correctly than it would be to make any other graph, because you got to be able to do those percents and then get the percent of 360 degrees. And if you don't follow that, that's okay. That's this little advanced part of that. All right, I'm gonna move to the next slide and turn that off, turn this over here. Again, there were 5 kinds that we are going to talk about. We said bar graphs are about just data at a particular time. You just say, what are your favorite ice cream flavors? You just put the data down. Maybe it's like we looked at one yesterday about different superheroes at different ages. So you put all the bar graphs into one, so you have a double bar graph or a triple bar graph or a quadruple. It was a quadruple. Circle graphs are when you take the bar graph and you assign it to the percent of the whole group of data in the graph. Line graphs, we said you're going to have an X that's time and your Y is going to be amounts. And you're looking at the change that it makes over the time. Histograms, we're going to talk about either end of today or tomorrow. It's where you're taking that data and you're putting it in intervals. They have to be intervals that are the same distance of amounts. Like if I'm doing intervals of A, B, C, D, and F, that wouldn't be a true histogram because there are more numbers that get you an F than get you an A, right? There are more numbers that get you a C than get you a D. But I could do a histogram if I'm doing anybody who made in the 80s versus the 90s versus the 70s versus the 60s versus the 50s. That would be a correct histogram because every interval would have 10 numbers in it that I would be comparing. And then box and whisker is like your TCAP scores where you're looking at the quartiles and you divide it in the middle and then you divide the first half in half and the top half in half, and that's your 4 quartiles. Okay, so moving on really quickly, bar graphs, simple. You just straightforward. You have a title, you have the category, and then you have the numbers that are the Y. Can someone really quickly tell me why are the rabbit, cat, dog, goldfish, hamster the X and not the Y?
The reason why is, first of all, because they're on the bottom, and second of all, because they're the data measured, and then the Y would show like the total of it, and then the X would show what it is.
And remember, whatever thing you're asking the question about, that has to be your X because that came first, right? And then the number of choices are dependent on whichever animal you're talking about there. So yeah, it has to be the X. There was the quadruple bar graph. So now let's talk about pie graphs or circle charts. Okay, on here, will you tell me if I told you there were 100 participants or 100 matches that happened in this chart? Could you tell me what would be Pakistan's actual number of wins? So if you're right on the screen, if I were to be telling you that this pie chart was measuring 100 games, Pakistan won exactly how many games based on this pie chart? All right, I'm getting the number 21. Chloe, I'm going to put yours on the screen. Will you tell me how you got that 21? You did it mentally, I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what did you do?
So I got 21 because if the Pakistan is like the maroon color.
Correct.
And if we're doing 100, then 21% would just be 21.
Because percent is out of 100, and so I made it easy by saying it's 100. Now, I'm not asking you to do this, but what if it were 50 games? What would that do to your number, Chloe?
It would cut it in half.
Yeah, which you can't have part of a game, right?
Yeah.
Right. So there would be no 21% out of 50. There would only be even numbers because there would only be 50 games, but that's beside the point. If there were exactly 20 games, India won how many? See who can do that one.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes, and I'm going to change it. If there were exactly 20 games, Australia is the one I meant to say, would have won how many of them? The orange.
10 games? Or no, never mind.
If there were exactly 20 games, Australia would have won 4 or 5. 4 or 5?
4.
4.
4, yeah. They would have won 4 because 20% of 20 would be 4. Yeah, that's right. Okay, let's look at the next slide. What's different about this slide versus the one we just looked at? What's the big difference here besides the topic?
It has different varieties of numbers. Like,
tell me what you mean by that, Fred.
Like all the other ones were solid numbers, like 21. Like they didn't have extra.
Yeah. So they were all straight up percents. These have partial percents, right? Correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Correct.
Can someone tell me then what does that tell me about this data if it's got partial percents?
It's more split, and it's something that doesn't have to be put into a whole number.
Okay. Could
hard
you
to
tell me,
describe.
is this true or false? Write true or false on your screen. Since it has partial percents or decimals in the percents, would the data have been exactly 100? Yes or no? Could the data have been exactly 100?
Are you saying that it could have it, or like?
I'm saying with it having those decimals in the percent, could the data have been exactly 100? The literal data. The answer would be no. Could someone tell me why it would not? Could not be 100 with the decimals? And you may not, that may not be something you are like, I'm not sure. Anybody want to take a stab at it?
Sure.
Hey, go ahead.
I would say because there's a bunch of like actual extra mini numbers within the bigger numbers.
You're
solid
exactly
numbers.
right. No, you're exactly right. Because if I've got a decimal of a percent, that means I've got more than 100 pieces of data, right? Because if I had exactly 100, everything would be even percents, whole percents, you know, right? Because percent exactly got 100. Now, could it be less than 100? Of course, it could be less. It just could not be exactly 100 pieces of data. Do you notice in this graph anything that strikes you as surprising? Has nothing to do with graphs except the fact that you're using a graph to think about something. Water usage.
I would think showers would take more than the toilet.
Okay. I would think that would be the most startling thing on there. Now, do you think that looking at this with a circle graph would give you a better picture of water usage than just me making a list with the data straight down a list or a bar graph? What do you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, this makes more sense.
Yeah, well, it's easier to visualize that flushing the toilet uses a lot of water. I don't think that would be as clear in just writing the numbers down. You'd go, oh, it's the highest, but when you literally see it as a slice of the pie, it really makes a much more dramatic imprint on your noticing the data, even more than a bar graph. Even though on a bar graph, you clearly see it's the tallest bar, but seeing it like this, to me, makes you understand it's more than a fourth of the water. And another one that I think would strike you as interesting, that leaks, water leaking, as much as running water in your faucet would be. That's like washing your hands, brushing your teeth. That'd be running water in your dish, in your sink in the kitchen. Would that also have to do with your hose in the yard? Would that not be under faucet as well? So to me, seeing that would make another pretty vivid picture. The point of that is that that's the whole purpose, that a pie chart will give you a better understanding of data than would a bar graph or just the list of numbers. All right. Here's another one. This graph I got from Europe because it has labor spelled with a U. So on here, if I told you that this cost was for a house That's $200,000. The house is $200,000. Could you tell me how much are they paying for the labor for the people to build the house? If the total cost of the house is $200,000, how much are they paying for labor?
25% of that total cost.
Right. So tell me that literal cost. Write it on the screen. If you can write it on the screen. What is that actual amount of money? Okay, I'm going to give you a second for the people who have not responded to go ahead and respond, please. We got 7 people that still need to respond. And obviously, I gave you an easy one because you can do the mental math. Which other one on there would be easy to do mental math? Somebody tell me out. They're all not hard, but which ones would be the easiest to do mentally?
There would be 2.
Yeah.
I would say timber and cement.
Yeah. Timber, $20,000, right? That means the lumber.
Mm-hmm.
They call it timber in Europe.
Yep.
The lumber, and then the cement would just be double that because it's 20%, right?
Mm-hmm.
The reason those 3 are easy because they're benchmark fractions, right? All right. And then for this, you should have gotten $50,000, right? Fallon, can you tell me why the answer is $50,000? Fallon, you there? All right, let me try Izzy. Izzy, can you tell me why it's $50,000 if the total cost of the house was $200,000? Why is the labor cost $50,000?
Probably because the labor, well, the labor percent one is larger than the rest.
Okay. All right.
And
so you notice that the biggest single cost of building a house is paying the people to do it, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's and it's also 50,000 is 1/4 of 200,000, right?
Exactly,
and 25% is 1/4. So yeah. All right. Next slide. So for this, we are looking at people who filled out a survey on Facebook about their favorite Little Debbie snack choice. And we can see that Swiss cake rolls and Nutty Bars are the 2 that are the most picked out of that survey at 21% each, which is basically a 1/5. So would this be correct to say roughly 1 out of 5 people in the survey picked Nutty Bars or Swiss cake rolls? Would that be correct?
No.
What's wrong with you saying that?
Does anyone else want to answer? But what I was going to say was, because 21, you said both of them, so that would imply that both of them are like 10% each.
Yeah, trying to trick you. You caught it. This is correct to say approximately 1 out of 5 picked Swiss cake rolls. That's correct. Or approximately 1 out of 5 picked Nutty Bars. But what would be the correct way to say that if I'm saying Nutty Bars or Swiss cake rolls? 2 out of 5?
2/5?
2 out of 5?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
2/5 of the people, or about 40%. Yep. All right.
But you said or. You said
Yeah.
or. Nutty Bars or Swiss cake rolls, not and.
Right, but that would
both.
include both votes because you're only voting
Yes.
for one thing. I see why you said that because you're thinking or. Sometimes or means one or the other, but it does here too. You're saying you picked one or the other one because you can't do 2. Right?
Okay.
Does that make sense, Betty?
And then that percentage would have been lumped together based off of what
yes.
Mr. Q said.
So yeah, in this way that I used or, it's almost like an and, because you put them together. They picked one of those two versus these other 10 choices. All right, really quickly, if 200 people were in the survey, how many picked Star Crunch? 10, right? How many picked Raisin Cream? 4 people, right? Agree? Let me ask this question. If you'll write this on the screen, you know, at Christmas they'll do the Christmas the Christmas tree cakes. Well, you may or may not know that they do. Okay, so if 50 people answered this survey, how many literal of the 50 people said those kinds of holiday cakes that are only there for the holiday? If you'll write that on the screen, let's see who can figure that one out.
What's the total amount?
Okay, so 50 people took the survey, and if 50 people took the survey, how many literally voted for those special holiday cakes that only come during that time? Like a Christmas tree cake. Or say they did hearts in February.
I can literally smell sweets right now.
I'm craving a Star Crunch. I'm not even gonna lie. I could go for a Star Crunch or oat milk cream pie right now.
I'm hungry for food.
Seasonal snacks, is that what we're doing the percentage on?
Hungry for candy, for sweets. Yum.
All right, so Chloe, you have the right answer. Angelo, yes. So again, there's 50 people that voted. Of the 50 people, how many literally said the holiday snack? Think about what you have to do with that. Nathaniel, you're correct. Josie, correct. Jayla, yep. Michaela, yes. Kylie, yes. All right, I'm going to stick one on the screen here. Okay, that's aggravating. I clicked the one for it to do, and it goes to another one. It just pops off to a different place. That's not what I'm clicking. All right, so would someone who wrote 3 be willing to tell me why 3 is the answer to that question? This, by the way, I think is Kylie's.
I can explain it.
Please.
Okay, so you have to, I started out with the whole, which was 50.
Right.
And then I did 50 times 0.06 because the percent sign, you go 2 decimal places over. And
yep.
then that equals 3. And so 3 people out of the 50.
Yes. Could you, so that's the actual literal algorithm, the arithmetic algorithm. Could someone tell me, could that be done mentally also?
Yes.
Tell me how.
So what I did was so say 100 people took the survey. We used your last example.
Yeah.
There is 6 people who answered it. So if 50, which is half of 100, all you have to do is half 6, so you get 3.
Yeah. So since 50 is half of 100, well, 3 is half of 6. If there were 200 people took the survey, you would double the 6 to 12, right?
Correct.
All right. Would it be easy to do, just yes or no, somebody? What if I said there were 60 people took it? Is 6% easy on 60 people?
Would it be 10?
Why?
Yeah.
Because 6 is 60 is 10 times.
So is that necessarily easy because it's a 6 and a 60?
Yes.
No.
Who would say no?
I say no.
Here's the question. Does
Wait.
6% go into 100% exactly? It doesn't, does it? Right? Just an FYI. So
No.
it can be done, but it's not the apparent thing of, oh, it's 6 and that's 60. It's
If
not.
if you calculate it, you would get 3.6. So no.
Yeah. So it's not an easy mental math, right? Okay, that would be a misconception thing. Okay, so tomorrow we're going to talk about line graphs, but really quickly, tell me some things you notice about a line graph on the screen. Just tell me some characteristics about that line graph on your screen. And we'll start with line graphs and move into histograms tomorrow.
We're showing, I'm guessing that we're showing the push-up amount that we did that day or that week.
So this could be everybody in the class, or this could be a person.
Yeah.
I noticed that all the points on the line are connected so that you can easily see the change.
Correct. Now, here's the thing. The purpose of the lines are to show you that it's going up and down, the change. But let me tell you what Dr. Parsons would tell you. This should be a scatter plot instead of a line graph, because is there such a thing as partial push-ups in between Monday and Sunday?
No.
No. You see why I'm saying that? Because truly, if you're looking at this as a graph, let me hit my annotator to, I did. Let me show you what I'm talking about. And then we'll
push-ups all day
So
long.
here's the exact point of that data, right? There is also an exact point of data here. Was there such a thing as a partial push-up? See what I'm saying? Because aren't all of those spots different points in time? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
That's not their point of this. The lines are to show you how it's changing, but truly that should be just actual scatter plots, because there was not in between data. Because Monday you did 15, Tuesday you did 25. There was no fluctuation between the days. So the true, honest, truthful, most accurate graph here would be a scatter plot. We can just literally put the dots on there, but you don't connect them. But they're just wanting you to understand it's showing you the change, right? All right, so we will stop there for today. Anybody have a question about a bar graph or a circle graph? Bar graphs come first, and from bar graphs, you could create a circle graph with the total data from the bar graph, right? And then line graphs are a total different thing. They're about looking at a trend. Is it going up or down? And we'll talk more about that tomorrow. And that was the big difference on here that you wrote on the screen, is that it has connected lines. All right, so I will say see ya and hope to see you back in about 4 minutes for the game. All right?
Bye, guys.
Bye,
Wait,
guys.
hold on.
Hey, question?
Mr.
Question?
B.
Yes.
So I'm not sure if anyone's noticed this, but we only have 4 more days of school.
Yeah.
I noticed that.
I know.
I'm freaking out. It feels like
I know.
a week, but
It is what it is, but that doesn't mean that we're not still a group that can still be together, just because we don't have to do work anymore.
wait. I have a question.
Yeah.
If we didn't finish most of our IXL, we can still do it over the summer though, right?
The question is, if you haven't, you should, because you need to cover those skills for 7th grade. Yep.
And I think it's kind of sad how it's last day of school this last week. We can't see each other in person. We can't do anything in person.
But remember, Izzy, we're going to see each other eventually, and just because you're in 7th grade doesn't mean you're not still a part of Parsons 17, right?
I will never.
Wait, hold on. Didn't you say that Megs might be fixed up until fall, so we might see all of us back up at Megs or in the middle of summer?
We don't know. Oh, so
hopefully.
No, what I said was, if this summer they release